Today is a very special and a very action-packed video. What was supposed to be an unboxing video of some Lasius queen ants very quickly became a tragedy when I found out that half of the queen ants I had bought had drowned and they were all dead. Or were they? Later in the video, I also have a super important question for you all, my viewers, about this colony for you to vote on, and ultimately it is up to you to determine the fate of these queen ants and their future on the channel. But before any of that, let's take a step back to how this all started. Please leave a like if you think I deserve it, and let's get into today's very special video. It all started about a week ago when I bought a colony of ants advertised to have 15 newly caught queen ants in a test tube from the genus Lasius neoniger. I bought this lot of queen ants because I had quite a bit of trouble founding a colony of this species recently, so I thought that this would be a perfect opportunity. I had actually received this package in the mail a day earlier than I was supposed to, and I got straight to unboxing the ants. But upon opening the package, I very quickly knew that something was wrong when the test tube was on the edge of the box, no longer wrapped in the newspaper which was supposed to protect the colony during shipping. I pulled out the test tube and my worst nightmare came true. It looked as though the test tube had completely flooded with water while the colony was in the mail. At this point, I didn't know if any of the ants were going to survive, but if I had even a slight chance of saving them, I knew that I had to act super quick. I ran over to my ant keeping supplies and quickly found a spare outworld, and I got a Q-tip from my ant equipment drawer, and I was going to dump the queens into the outworld and save as many as I possibly could. The Q-tip was my best option for taking out the queens without hurting them, and I had to be so careful not to mess up and hurt any of them myself. I had to be quick on my feet. Every single second counted, and any time wasted could be the difference between life or death for these queens, so I only filmed one clip of them when I first unpackaged the colony. I saw some movement in the tube, and I had hope that there was at least a few queens that could be saved. So here they were, 20 queen ants, and only 9 of them had shown any sort of life whatsoever. I decided to remove the seemingly dead ones from the outworld, and hopefully try to save the ones that were still moving. Over half of the queens looked completely lifeless, and it seemed like I was removing corpses from the outworld. I decided to gather up these seemingly dead queens, and I put them in a test tube so that I could film them a couple more times before they were disposed of. I was sad for these queen ants, who seemingly met a tragic fate, and they never got their chance at life and to found their own ant colony for themselves. It was really sad to see all of these queen ants lay completely lifeless on my table in this test tube, knowing that the future of any one of these queens could have been so bright, and any one of them could have been successful and raised an entire ant empire. But they never even had the chance to try, and their lives were... Wait, did one of them just move? Keep a close eye on that ant right there. Look, it happened again. It was so slight, but my heart immediately jumped. Could it be possible that some of these ants are actually alive? Can I save them? I realized that I might not just be dealing with corpses, and I immediately got a heat cable and I put it under the test tubes, thinking that maybe it would help warm up the ants and dry out the water that they'd been soaking in for who knows how long. In my excitement, I completely forgot about the queens who were still alive, who at this point had gathered into small groups and they were cleaning each other, which, come to think of it, wasn't characteristic of Lasius neoniger. I decided to move these queens into a single test tube again, and I thought about how this behavior of the queens was awfully strange. I took a look back at the queens that up until this point I thought were corpses, and what I saw was incredible. Some of the queens in the test tube had responded to the heat and their legs were beginning to move. I had so many questions. How many of the queens would actually start moving? Did they have a chance at coming back to life, and if they did, would they be able to make a full recovery? So many questions, but all I could do at this point was wait. I found myself staring at my phone, recording these ants for hours, and I had many thoughts going through my head, such as, I have to really love ants to spend hours watching these things twitch their legs every few minutes. Also, now that things had calmed down a little bit and I had time to actually think again, I started to actually take a look at these queen ants for the first time, and I quickly started realizing things that didn't make sense, along with the strange behavior from earlier. These Lasius queens look a whole lot smaller than normal, and they're cleaning each other, and they're getting into big groups, which seems uncharacteristic, since Lasius neoniger, they're mostly monogynous, and only accept 1 or maybe 2 queens in rare cases. But a group of 5 of them huddling together and cleaning each other, that's not normal. And come to think of it, they look a lot more yellow than normal too. Could these queens have been misidentified and they weren't actually Lasius neoniger? I got really excited at this point because I just had a revelation. They look exactly like my Lasius brevicornis queens that I just filmed in my last video. I am almost certain that these queens aren't Lasius neoniger, but rather Lasius brevicornis. This is amazing news on so many levels if they are Lasius brevicornis, but the only way to tell is to see what the workers look like next spring. While the queens between the two species look rather similar, the workers are completely different. The workers from Lasius neoniger are completely jet black, while those of Lasius brevicornis are bright yellow and they're also see-through. Second and most importantly, Lasius brevicornis are highly polygynous ants, which means that this species is very often found with multiple queens in a nest, and they also found colonies with multiple queens too, and they don't kill each other. This then made me realize that I had a very important decision to make, but I couldn't make it on my own. I needed my viewers' help for this one, and it is super important and detrimental to the success and the future of these queen ants. This species, being Lasius brevicornis instead of Lasius neoniger, posed a huge curveball to my plan, and I will tell you why. I bought this lot of Lasius neoniger queens with the thought in mind to separate the queen ants into individual test tubes of either one or possibly two queens in each tube, since this species is known to found a colony with multiple queens, but usually they end up killing off the weaker queens until there is only one remaining when the workers arrive. But because these queens are Lasius brevicornis and not Lasius neoniger, I now have the opportunity to group these queens into groups that have way less repercussions of killing the queens. Because as I said earlier, these queens are very polygynous and they gladly accept multiple queens in a single colony without killing each other later on. As time went on, more and more queens started waking up and beginning to move, and this was super exciting. I was so sure that these queens were dead, and if none of the queens had moved for even a few more minutes, they would have been disposed of, and I'm so glad that I saw that they were actually alive. It turned out that 15 of the 20 queen ants would actually end up surviving, which well exceeded my expectations and was amazing news. So in the end, this left me with a group of 6 queens that came back to life, and a group of 9 that did not end up drowning. So now comes the important part where I need all of your guys' help. I am going to make a post on my YouTube community tab with 5 different options of how to split these queens up, and I need you all to vote. Keep in mind that I have a 2-queen Lasius brevicornis colony that is also in founding that I will not be separating, and they will serve as a backup. Currently, I have the queens that almost drowned separate from the ones that didn't, and it will stay that way until the voting period is over. Now, let's go over the options. Option 1. Separate the queens into groups of 4 and 1 group of 3. If I separated the queens this way, there would be 4 groups, and there would also be the backup group with 2 queens. 3 to 4 queens would be the optimal number for founding this species and would likely ensure that no queens would die. But this way I would be left with 5 colonies in total, and that is almost too many. Option 2. Separate the queens into a group of 7 and a group of 8. If I group the queens this way, I would have 3 colonies in total, including the 2-queen colony. The pros of this option are that the production of the brood would be way higher because there would be more queens present. However, the more queens that are in a single colony increases the risk of some of the queens not making it or being outcast. So 7 to 8 queens each is a somewhat risky move, but remember, I still have the 2-queen colony as a backup in case these ones don't work out. Option 3. Group the queens into 2 groups, consisting of one group of 6 queens that were lifeless and came back to life, and the other group of the 9 queens that were alive. This option is entertaining because I can document how the queens that drowned did compared to those that didn't. Otherwise, it's very similar to option 2. Option 4. Separate the queens into 3 equal groups of 5 queens each. This option would allow us to have 3 colonies of 5 queens in each of them and document the progress of each of them and see how they do. And this leads me to option 5. Have a 15 queen super colony and make it an experiment. This is by far the most risky option because 15 queens in a single colony could definitely cause some queen deaths. However, the pros to this option are that I would have 2 colonies, and also the brood production would be through the roof, and the colony would have a ton of workers very quickly. To cast your vote, please be sure to check the community tab after this video. I will decide based on the option with the most votes, and I will make a video going over the results. I really hope that you all enjoyed today's video and found it to be highly entertaining. I really enjoyed creating this one, and if you think I deserve it, please leave a like and subscribe. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Be sure to vote, and peace.